Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari. Punjabi Hari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Radha Madhava. And Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari. Kunjabi Hari. Jamal, before you sit, I have something for you. Just keep standing. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Padikacharya Astotra Sriman Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padikacharya Astotra Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Can you turn this down a little bit? And turn the lights down, pull it down a little bit. Thanks. Okay. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamadiriyet. It's still too loud. You gotta pull it down. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of January 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj Returns Home, text number 7. So before we change the verse, we'll go word by word, make it a little easier. Ekastvam eva bhagavan idam atmashaktya mayakyayoru gunaya mahad adyashesham strisvanavishya purushas tadasad guneshu naneva darushu vibhavasuvad vibhasi ekasthameva bhagavan idamatma shaktya mayakyayor gunaya mahadadya shesham Stristvanu vishya purushastada sadguneshu Nane vadadashu vibhavasu vadvibhasi Ekasthameva bhagavan idam atma shaktya Mayakyayoru gunaya mahadadya shesham Sristvanu vishya purushastada sadguneshu Nane vadadashu vibhavasu vadvibhasi Ekasthameva bhagavan idam atma shaktya Mayakyayoru gunaya mahadadya shesham Sristvanu vishya purushastada sadguneshu Nane vadarashu vibhavasu vadvibhasi Ekasthameva bhagavan idam atma shaktya Mayakyayoru gunaya mahadadya shesham Sristvanu vishya purushastada sadguneshu Nane vadadashu vibhavasu vadvibhasi Ekasthameva bhagavan idam atma shaktya Mayakyayoru gunaya mahadadya shesham Sristvanu vishya purushastada sadguneshu Nane vadadashu vibhavasu vadvibhasi. Okay, so I'm going to read the synonyms. Ekaha, one. Tvam, you. Eva, certainly. Bhagavan, O my Lord. Idam, this material world. Atma Shaktya, by your own potency. Maya Akyaya, of the name Maya. Uru, greatly powerful. Gunaya, consisting of the modes of nature. Mahat Adi, the Mahat Tattva, etc. Ashesham, unlimited. Srishtva, after creating. Anuvishya, then after entering. Purushaha, the supersoul. Tat, of Maya. Asatguneshu, into the temporarily manifested qualities. Nana, variously. Iva, as if darushu, into pieces of wood, vibhavasuvat, just like fire, vibhasi, you appear. Translation. So this is Dhruva Maharaj praying to Vishnu, who has appeared before him. My Lord, you are the Supreme One, but by your different energies you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. You create the total energy of the material world by your external potency, and after creation you enter within the material world as the Supersoul. You are the Supreme Person, and through the temporary modes of material nature you create varieties of manifestation, just as fire entering into wood of different shapes burns brilliantly in different varieties. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj realized that the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, acts through his different energies, not that he becomes void or impersonal and thus becomes all-pervading. The Mayavadi philosopher thinks that the Absolute Truth, being spread throughout the cosmic manifestation, has no personal form. But here, Dhruva Maharaj, upon realization of the Vedic conclusion, says, you are spread all over the cosmic manifestation by your energy. This energy is basically spiritual, but because it acts in the material world temporarily, it is called Maya, or illusory energy. In other words, for everyone but the devotees, the Lord's energy acts as external energy. Dhruva Maharaj could understand this fact very nicely, and he could understand also that the energy and the energetic are one and the same. The energy cannot be separated from the energetic. The identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the feature of Paramatma or Supersoul is admitted herein. His original spiritual energy enlivens the material energy, and thus the dead body appears to have life force. Voidist philosophers think that under certain material conditions, these symptoms of life occur in the material body. The fact is that the material body cannot act on its own. Even a machine needs separate energy, electricity, steam, etc. It is stated in this verse that the material energy acts in varieties of material bodies, just as fire burns differently in different wood according to the size and quality of the wood. In the case of devotees, the same energy is transformed into spiritual energy. This is possible because the energy is originally spiritual, not material. As it is said, Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta. The original energy inspires a devotee, and thus he engages all his bodily limbs in the service of the Lord. The same energy as external potency engages the ordinary non-devotees in material activities for sense enjoyment. We should mark the difference between Maya and Swadhamna. If anyone's looking on, it's a misprint. Dhamna. Maya and Swadhamna. For devotees, the Swadhamna acts, whereas in the case of non-devotees, the Maya energy acts. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Milatamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we have just begun Dhruva Maharaj's prayers. I don't know if you're familiar with the story of Dhruva Maharaj. Did you ever hear that in the 4th canto? You heard about the Bhagavatam, you may have heard some classes. Well, we've started from the beginning. Again, we went through, I've been here 30 years, and now we've gone through 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and we're in the middle of the 4th canto. And the 4th canto has this wonderful story of Dhruva Maharaj. It took place in the Satya Yuga, many thousands and millions of years ago, near the beginning of the creation. And Dhruva Maharaj, or he became the Maharaj, probably always called him Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva, his very name means fixed, very determined, see? So he's a little child, 5-year-old child, and his father is King Uttanapada, one of the 2 sons of, like, one of the first son of Brahma. Brahma's first son is Swayambhuva Manu. And the big concern for Lord Brahma at the beginning of the universe is populating the universe. So he needs what is called Prajapatis, some of his sons, to take on the task of populating the universe. So Swayambhuva Manu is one of those. He's also a Manu, one of the 14 Manus, lawgivers. So Swayambhuva Manu's two sons were Priyavata and Uttanapada. And we hear about Priyavata later in the 5th canto, but in this portion of the 4th canto we hear about Uttanapada, and especially about his glorious son Dhruva. So Uttanapada had two wives. One was named Suruchi and one was named Suniti. And these names are important. Suruchi means very beautiful. Suniti means very virtuous. So he was a little more attracted to Suruchi, and Suniti was kind of pushed aside a little bit. So Dhruva was the eldest son of Suniti, but Suruchi had her own son named Uttama, and she was hoping that he would be the king, that he would inherit the throne. So anyway, the scene starts with they're in the palace, and Uttama is playing on the lap of King Uttanapada, and Dhruva wants to get up on the lap also. He's not, he's just a little boy. But Suruchi says, "You can't get on there. You have to be reborn as my son," and like that. So it hurts him to the quick, So he's very upset, and his father doesn't say anything. That's the thing, because he's controlled by Suruchi. So Dhruva goes off and goes to his mother, his real mother, Suniti, and asks, "What about this? This is what happened." So she says, "What can I do? I'm not the favorite queen. But if you get the mercy of God, he can help you." And so Prabhupada, which actually Suruchi told him also, you have to get God's mercy before you can get on the lap. So then there's some added commentary, because all the acharyas, Srila Prabhupada says, and so Dhruva says, "Well, where can I find him?" And Suniti says, "Well, I've heard that the great sages and saints, they find him in the forest." So off he goes into the forest, 5-year-old boy. And, how's he going to do it? He's just determined. Somehow or other he's going to find God and ask him so that he can get the favor of his father again. So along the way, Narada Muni, he sees what's going on. He comes down. And first he tests Dhruva and he says, "You're a little young for practicing all these austerities. Go back. Later on I'll teach you everything." So Dhruva says, "No, oh master. If you can't teach me, I'm going off anyway." So he says, "Okay." So he gives him a process of yoga that's infused with all kinds of bhakti. Because yoga practice is traditionally very, very austere, especially in that age. Just going to the forest, sitting alone, practicing pranayama. Krishna outlines it in the Bhagavad Gita in the 6th chapter. But he says, yes, so you practice these severe austerities, but in the meantime you also chant Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, which is after all the name of God. We sing all the time. And you practice a little deity worship. Now how's he going to practice deity worship? Well, it's going to be by the river. He tells him to go to Mathura, to Vrindavan. So the Yamuna river is going to be there. And the mud is there. He can make a little deity and worship that during the day. And then in the evening you dissolve it, and then you make another one the next day. This is an authorized form of deity worship. So he's doing the deity worship. He's chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and he's meditating on the Lord within the heart, whom Narada described in great detail. So this is his meat. And then it describes his incredible austerities. Like when he went in, he just was eating the berries and fruits that fell on the ground, whatever he could get, And then he did that like once every 3 days, once every 6 days. Then he's just breathing every other day, and then finally he's just breathing every week or something. And meanwhile, he's meditating, becoming very powerful, and describes that he became so heavy, he was like moving the earth practically. And he was blocking the universal breathing because he had entrained it. He had become, Prabhupada describes like if you're in a plane, you're riding in the plane, you're just sitting there reading Bhagavad Gita, you're going 500 miles an hour. And you have all this momentum. You don't even realize it because you've hooked up to the plane. So similarly, he hooked up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore the universal breathing he was controlling or affecting. Anyway, so the demigods prayed to Vishnu, "Please go and stop him because we're suffocating." So he comes down, it just happened a few verses ago, on Garuda. And the very deity he's meditating with great attention and samadhi in his heart, suddenly his meditation breaks, he opens his eyes, and there he is in front of him. And it describes how he was crying and trying to embrace the Lord and feeling like he was kissing his feet and everything. So that's where we are. Now he's just beginning to offer. He couldn't offer prayers because he's only 5 years old. He didn't even study Sanskrit yet. So Vishnu, he touches his head with the conch shell. And suddenly he has all this knowledge manifest in his heart, and he's able to offer these beautiful prayers, which you're hearing. These are not easy verses to chant, as you've experienced. So now he's beginning his prayers. Now, one of the things about prayers, the Bhagavatam is filled with series of prayers. And usually they have 3 different characteristics. And one is offering of obeisances. I'm not sure if he did it already, but in these prayers he'll definitely do that, just like we say in the Maham Vishnu Padaya. Then there's glorification, and the glorification is taking place now. He's not offering, these are prayers as a group, but he hasn't asked for anything yet. He's just glorifying the Lord. And so we'll study this, and then finally he's going to pray for something. But he's given up his desire for the kingdom. His whole purpose in going to the forest was so he could get this kingdom greater than his fathers, greater than his grandfathers, even greater than Brahma. It was almost like a childish thing. But that was his original desire. That's been purified so that he doesn't want any of that now, as we'll see. And but even though it's been purified, still, when Vishnu comes, he gives him the kingdom. He rules for like 35,000 years. This isn't Satya Yuga when you live for a long time. So let's look at this first now. So the point here is that he's giving us what's throughout the Bhagavatam, and is the central point of Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, and that is there is God, and he has his own activities in his own abode, and this world that we have is a reflection of that. This is right in the Bhagavad Gita in 15th chapter at the beginning. So anything we have here must be in its original pure, pristine form in the spiritual world. And that includes our own personality, our own form. We're made in the image of God. We can't have desires and activities and all of these rasas and relationships without it being there in the Supreme, in its pure form. The Mayavadis make the big mistake of thinking that all of this, our activities, our form, our desires, this is all illusory. This is all bondage for us. So therefore the Supreme, the perfect, must have no variety, no activities, no form, no nothing. Simply white light consciousness. Similar to the Buddhists. The Buddhists are, in the high Buddhism, they say ultimately it's all void. And the Mayavadis say, no, it's not void, it's substance, but there's no variety. That's why in the prayer we sing Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. You know that one, right? Namah Vishnu Padaya. So the second verse, which Prabhupada wrote, by the way, he says he's preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya, and by doing that, he's delivering the Western world. He wrote this at the time, he just had a little storefront in New York, so he's in the Western world. But then of course he's saving the whole world. But the prayer says the Western world, Paschatya. And Nirvishesh Shunyavadi. So the Nirvishesh means no details, no varieties. That's Mayavad. And Shunyavad, this is the Buddhism, means that everything is ultimately void. They're very similar. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani. He's saving the Western lands from these mistaken philosophies which send you astray and don't give you bhakti. They kill your bhakti. You can't think everything is void, that Krishna is just an imagination, and still have faith and surrender. It doesn't work that way. You have to have that faith that he's really there, he's a person. So here, the basic principle here is that Krishna is in his abodes. He has all these different energies. There's so many verses from the Upanishads that say that. Padasya Shakti Vibhadhaiva Shuyate Swabhavati Jnana Bala Kriyacha. Prabhupada will quote this one. This is the second part of a verse. That the Supreme Lord has all different varieties of Shakti. That's energy. Vibhadhaiva. Vibhadhaiva means different varieties. And by these energies, Swabhavati Jnana Bala Kriyacha. By his will, by the strength of these energies, his will is being carried out automatically and doing all the stuff that we see. The sun is rising, hearts are pumping. Everything that's going on or just exists is nothing but his energies. And in the Bhagavad Gita, he divides them into two: the apara and the para, means the lower energy and the transcendental energy. We belong by nature to the spiritual energy, para shakti. Para prakriti, same idea. And all of this we see, which we live in, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, all of that is material. It's not conscious. It's called the apara prakriti. So the para prakriti is also more involved. There's a whole spiritual realm. But all of it is energy. And so this is wonderful verse that Prabhupada would often quote, and Lord Chaitanya quotes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think it's one of the Puranas. Ekadesha stitisyagner jyotsna vistarani yata padasya brahmana shaktis tatedam akilanjakat. So Ekadesha means in one spot. So we've done fire sacrifices in here periodically when we have initiations or other occasions. And so our pujari, often Dayanidhi Prabhu, sometimes Dharma Setu Prabhu, build a little fire. I don't know if you've ever seen that. We have, there's wood, we soak it in ghee, and then there's mantras chanted. It's all traditional and part of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So then eventually the fire lights and mantras are chanted and devotees are sitting around. They throw in some seeds and other things. And it's very auspicious. So imagine there's one fire in that corner over there. So you can, as soon as you walk in the room, you see the fire, you see the light of the fire. And if it's a big enough fire, you can feel some heat also. So the fire is situated in one place. That's what this verse says. Ekadesha stitis yagnir. Agni is fire. I don't know if you ever thought of the relationship between English and Sanskrit. Agni and ignition. Ignition means fire, when the fire is it. So there's a lot of related words like that. So the fire is in one corner, but it's emanating its heat and light, which is separate from the fire. But still it has its effect through that energy. Similarly, Krishna is in one place, he's in Goloka Vrindavan, but through his energies and also his expansions, he is present everywhere. And that's why the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni says in the first canto, Idam Vishwan Bhagavan. This universe is Bhagavan. What? This universe is Bhagavan? That sounds like it's, what is it? Pantheism or something, that the nature is God. But no, idami vishram bhagavan ivetaraha. The rest of the line says iva itara. But it seems to be different. Because through his energies, you can't perceive the original personality of Godhead. But he's present there through his influence. And that's how as Prahlad says here, by your different energies, you appear differently in the spiritual and material worlds. So in the material world, he's also expanding as his energies, but it's the internal energy. Just like Srimati Radharani, she's an energy. She's Ladani Shakti, but she's a full personality, but she's known as the personified Ladani Shakti. Pleasure potency, she's personified love for Krishna. That's what she is. And she expands into all the gopis, and actually all the other devotees ultimately are expanding from her. That energy which is only dedicated to give Krishna pleasure. Now we are not like that. We're marginal energy. We're also Krishna's spiritual energy, but it's called marginal, tatastha shakti, which means, unlike Radharani and all the gopis and all the cowherd boys and even the cows and everything in Vrindavan, we have the capacity, the unfortunate tendency, to also forget Krishna and be absorbed in the material energy. And in that forgetfulness, we identify completely with our whatever material body we're in. But the body is made of the different quality of energy. That's the Jada Shakti, or the Aparash Prakriti we mentioned. Not alive. So we're a mixture. Each organism is a mixture of the transcendental energy, the Tatastha Shakti, Jiva Shakti, and a certain configuration of the material energy. But it's all Krishna's energy. So in that way you can say he's everything. He is this material world. And the vision that we get from reading this verse and the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita should be that we see God everywhere through his energy. And we see, the whole idea is, when we stop trying to exploit that energy for our pleasure, then we can see like that, and we can use the energy as appropriate in the service of the Lord. That's the very definition of bhakti. At the beginning of the Bhakti Samada Sindhu, we have the Nectar of Devotion. You're familiar with that book? So we have two verses defining bhakti. The most famous one, by a little bit, gives us the definition of pure bhakti. What does it say? Uttama bhakti. What is that? Yeah. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanavratam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktir uttama. This is actually the foundational verse of this whole movement. It's given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Rupa Goswami. He wrote it down. So, anya abhilashita means other desires. Shunyam, just like shunyavadi, means devoid of other desires. And then he gives it categories. Jnana, karma, jnanavratam. Now the word avratam means covered. So this material desire covers our original love for Krishna. The prema becomes kama. The mere material desire, I want to enjoy. So it can also be more subtle. He says jnana. Jnana means knowledge, and it's kind of a code word. It means if those who are into knowledge generally want liberation. That's also a personal desire. You say, well, I don't want liberation. But really, liberation in its broadest sense means any desire to be free from the suffering in this world. Right? That's the ultimate thing of the Mayavadis and personalists, that let me merge into the Brahman. No more birth, no more death, no more suffering of any kind. Now that in itself is a great pleasure, you know, because a lot of times when you're in pain, your greatest pleasure would be to get rid of the pain. Then after that, we'll worry about enjoying the senses. But the main thing is the pain, right? So the Mayavadis, they were students of the Vedas. They know, well, the main problem in this world is birth, old age, disease, and death. So we can get rid of that only by transcending the material world and merging into Brahman. That's the Mayavadis. So we have to have a lot of knowledge. We study the Vedanta Sutra. We separate the self, the Atma, from the non-self, neti. And in this way, we'll perform austerities and transcend. But that's a material desire. It's focused on myself. I want to be free of suffering. Then karma. Karma is the traditional thing. Simply enjoy your senses. But then, just in case you have some other, adi means etc. Karmani anadi, anavratam, uncovered or unpolluted, unadulterated. I'd probably use the word unadulterated by material desire. Because bhakti can also be mixed. You can mix your bhakti. You can come into the temple and on your way to work. This happens in LA a lot, and people will come in, and oftentimes they'll have at least the understanding of walking behind the speaker, so they don't walk right in front. And they go to the deity, and they'll offer in a few dollars into the hundi, make an ardent prayer for having a prosperous and healthy day or whatever, and then walk out and go on to work. So that's good. They're approaching Krishna, but it's very rudimentary bhakti because it's covered just by their desire to, for material prosperity or whatever like that. And most religion is that way, is that people go and they ardently pray, but they pray for prosperity and safety and all these things. But that's not pure bhakti. So that's what it isn't. It isn't covered by or adulterated by these material desires. What is it? That's the next part of the verse. Anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhaktiruttama. Anukulyena means favorable. With the idea, whatever you're doing it with the idea of this is pleasing to Krishna, let me do it. I'm doing it just for Krishna's pleasure. Your only pleasure is in Krishna's pleasure. That's pure bhakti. Now, it's difficult to come to that point, but that's where we have a whole process. But So, and then the next verse, which is related, which has to do with this idea of seeing the energy as belonging to Krishna, as his energy, and meant for his service, and engaging it in his service. What is this temple? It's just a bunch of wood and bricks and mortar and wires and everything else that goes into a temple. But it's specifically, though, that energy is being used for glorifying Krishna. And so it's transcendental. It's a dhamma. It's not just a bar. Like when you go down about 100 feet and there's a nice pizza bar. So you can go in there or you can come in here. So it has a different effect. So that's what this verse is about. Sarva upadi vinimuktam tatpadatvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhaktiruchyate. So to be free of all these, what we call upadis, sarva upadi. Upadi is a false designation that we place on ourselves. The main designation is, I'm this body. That's what I am. Who else could I be? I know myself as this name, this gender, this age, this race, this place where I live. My house is over here. That's how I define it. And I have all these relatives and everything. But that's just a temporary little designation that's lasting for a few years, right? In our previous life, we had a whole different family and weight and height and maybe even species. And then in the future, who knows the same thing? So what's the point? These temporary designations are what keep us in maya, in illusion. Because we act on the basis of those designations, but that's not really us. So here it says, Sarvapadi vinimuktam, completely free from these false designations. Tatpadatvena nirmalam, being purified of them. And rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchyate. That bhakti is using the senses that we have in the service of the master of the senses. And by doing that, gradually we become purified. The senses, the mind becomes purified. So we spontaneously want to do that, rather than as a vaidhi or instruction. It begins with following it as a matter of duty and intelligence, and gradually it becomes spontaneous. So here he's just giving us what we call the tattva, or he's describing what actually is. So Krishna, he creates the total energy by his external energy, and then he enters within it as the super soul. So that's another way this whole universe is Krishna. He's all-pervading. That's the meaning of the word Vishnu, is that he's all-pervading as the super soul and as his energies. And through the modes of nature, he creates varieties of manifestations, including these bodies. And then the analogy, which comes up again and again, just as fire goes into different wood and burns differently according to how much fuel there is and what kind of wood it is, like that. So the energy is the same, but it manifests in all varieties. Now, in the purport, Prabhupada distinguishes this philosophy from the philosophy of the Maya bodies, which I mentioned. You're spread all over the cosmic manifestation. So the energy is basically spiritual. And that's why when we use the so-called material things in Krishna's service, they become spiritualized, beginning with our own body. You know, like I mentioned, this building, or food. You know, we go to Smart and Final and buy so many things, and so many other people going. But we're taking that rice and grain and whatever it is, and preparing some nice thing for Krishna with devotion, offering to him. Then when we partake it, it's a spiritual experience, and it purifies ourselves. Because it's being used in Krishna's service, and it becomes spiritualized. So, and the most obvious one of those is the deity himself. At one point, the wood and the marble of the deities was just like any other marble of wood. But it was carved according to the instructions of Shastra and Guru. It was installed, and all the worship and the dressing. So now Krishna, through these deities, which we can see and serve, we can't see the original form with our present eyes. So out of his mercy, he appears as the deity form through the agency of the pure devotee. And then we can actually awaken our devotion by serving the deity and seeing that it's actually spiritual. So that's a more obvious, and it's very esoteric. People can't understand it, but that's actually how it works. And the most accessible form is the sound of the holy name. It's just a sound, but it's more than a sound, because it's vibrated, especially when vibrated by the pure devotee and repeated with devotion and understood what it is. Krishna is non-different from that sound, and we can relate to him, become purified by chanting, and everyone who does that experiences. So that's what's all these energies are what this world is made of, and they're all Krishna's energies. And when we understand that and live on that basis, we see him everywhere. That's the idea. So then he deals with the Paramatma, super soul. He enlivens the material energy. So this is interesting. Just as the individual soul, we're moving and conscious and everything, but because we're inside. But we should know that it's ultimately just a bunch of earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's animated because we're in it. And when we leave it, that's called death, and it reverts back to the original form. So the problem comes when we identify with it and we become attached to things related to it. Then the material world takes on its ghastly form of being dukkali and mashashvatam. Because you can't sustain those relationships, either with your body or with anything related to the body. So that's why I love to quote this verse from Prahlad Maharaj. Somehow this one always struck me. Yasmat priyapa yabayoga sayoga janma shokagnana sakalayona shudayamana. He's praying to Lord Nrsingadev. And he's analyzing in 3 lines the whole material situation. He's taking on, as they often do, the role of a conditioned soul. So that he can praying, so we can relate to that. It says, Yasmat priya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina. Shokagnina means the fire of lamentation. He says, I'm experiencing this not only in human life, but every form of life. I've been experiencing since I come to the material world. So, Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga. So the priya, from this experience, things which are dear to us. So just living in this world, there are things which are dear to us. Mostly your body, your health, right? wife, family, whatever, in human life, but even in lower animals, they become very attached to their offspring. So there's all these dear things, health. But eventually, or soon, it's just a matter of time, they'll be taken away from you. Your health will be taken by old age. Sometimes your body is suddenly taken away. Anything which is dear. Money. And things which are abominable to you, which you want to avoid at all costs, are forced upon you. Nobody wants this drought. Nobody wants the big one that's coming. We all know it's coming at a certain point, right? Any moment. We don't know. Since I moved here, I was aware of the San Andreas fault and everything. So we certainly don't want that, but at a certain point, it's going to come. Sometimes these things impinge upon you. Devotees can take lessons from the news. We just had, because there was a horrific car accident near our temple in Miami, in Alachua, northern Florida. It was on the I-75, which is one of these major north-south arteries, carrying. And somehow or other, a semi-truck and a car crossed over and had a horrific head-on collision with several vans and cars, and there were major casualties and deaths and everything. No devotees were hurt in that accident, but a similar accident took place a little later. One devotee was killed. So, no one expects that. You get on the highway, you're driving, like you've always done before, and suddenly, without warning, death is facing you, and, that's it. So, he's saying, Shokagnina, by these two things, what you want so much is ripped away, and what you hate so much is forced upon you. So this produces a fire of lamentation in all different species. So now, in the human form of life, we have various means of counteracting these miseries. These are called dukkaushadam, remedies for the pain and suffering. The multi-trillion-dollar medical system, the defense industry, more trillions of dollars on an individual level. We have insurance policies and all these different things to try to ward off, all these guns that are all pervading in America, which is insane. That's to try to defend yourself against the differences. But actually, the presence of the guns produces more misery, and that's the next part of the verse. Dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam. The very remedies produce more misery. You see. And so then in 4 syllables, he gives the source of the whole problem. Atadhyaham. Means I'm thinking I'm something I'm not. I'm identifying with this material body and this whole material situation, when it's totally alien to me. And so then the solution he really gives in the last line. He's speaking to Narasringadevs. You have to visualize. Now the Shringa is in his Komala. There's the Ugra and the Komala. Do you ever hear that? Ugra is the one where he's pulling apart Hiranyakashipu. Fierce. You can't look at him practically. But then when he sees Prahlad comes in, he turns into, very gentle. He's a gentle Nrsimhadev. So Hiranyakashipu has been killed, and Prahlad is offering his prayers, so he's very merciful. So he says, "Oh my Lord," Prahlad says, "Bhuman Brahman, oh great one, please instruct me in your bhakti yoga." So he's asking for instruction, just like Arjuna asked for Krishna. That's the only solution. So that's the what's really going on. But Krishna is concerned, so he appears as Super Soul, or he's with us as Super Soul rather, sustaining the universe in everyone's heart, giving us knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness, and trying to instruct us, but we're not listening. So he comes externally as the Guru and the Shastra to give us all a chance to actually hear. Just like he comes externally as the deity, so we can see him and serve him, he comes as the Shastra and the Guru, so we can hear, with the most important thing, we can actually hear the instruction. So that's what's going on, and okay. And then this idea of Swadharma. So we should always remember, Yogamaya and Mahamaya are really the same personality, but they're acting in different ways according to the consciousness. So that Yogamaya, which energy, which covers Yashoda so she can act as, she can see little baby Krishna as her son rather than as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That same Yogamaya expands as Mahamaya to actually cover Krishna entirely for those who want to forget him. But her function, her thankless task, is to also punish, and that's why it's Durga. Durga means like a fort or a prison house. So what that Mahamaya energy can help us to remember Krishna, because part of her manifestation is all of this material energy, this material world. So this, if we see it as separate or as our field of enjoyment, then it covers our knowledge. But by instruction, if we use the same energy to serve Krishna, it becomes an agency of meeting Krishna. Sound vibration. It can bring you down into the mode of the greatest ignorance. Or if we vibrate the right syllables and the right sounds and hear from the right source, it can obviously purify us and take us back to Godhead. So that's why we should mark the difference between Maya and Swadhamna. Swadhamna is another word for the internal energy. For devotees, the Swadhamna acts means that the internal energy is blessing us. Whereas in the case of non-devotees, the Maya energy acts. So we want to go from Mahamaya to Yogamaya. And that's the process of bhakti. Okay, I went a little over time. Any questions, comments? On any of this? We have a mic here. How about you, Jamal? Anything? I'm sorry. Oh, Balaram always has. See, he takes notes. That's why you always have questions. You take notes too. Krishna. Is it working?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Anyway, I'll repeat.
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare.
Oh, wait.
Test one. Hare Rama.
Oh, that's my fault. All right, I'll repeat your question. Go ahead.
So, when you said you quoted that verse from
I won't repeat the yawn.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Bol, test.
Just speak loudly.
Yes.
Yes.
Test one, test two, test. Hare Bol. Test 1, 2, 3.
Well, I mean, it's it's in the middle of the prayers, so he doesn't say anything right away.
Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1, 2.
And in the end,
Test.
I don't think he actually starts. I mean, what he does is he offers him a
Test.
blessing.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
He's gotten all the instructions.
Hare Rama.
But he's showing us how to pray. That's the thing. It's an example.
What is that blessing he offered him?
He offered him two blessings. The first one, first of all, when he says, you can have anything you want, just ask for anything. And Prahlad complained. He said, why are you tempting me, my Lord? I'm not a vanik. Vanik means I'm not a merchant. I didn't do all my service to get something. I'm just happy serving your lotus feet. But then after seeing, and this is an important point, seeing that it would be a service to the Lord, make him happy to take something from the Shringadev. He says, okay. Yadi dasasi me kamam vadang tang vadadarshapa kamanam brindisangoram vavadastu vanevaram. That's the famous verse. If you really want to offer me some desirable boon, then here's my request. Please let material desires never take root in my heart. That would be your best boon for me. And then he also asked, showing his compassion, that his father, Hiranyakashipu, be delivered. That he was so sinful, he tried to kill his son in so many ways, a horrible demon. But inside, he was Jaya Vijaya, he was really a devotee. So, but he asked that he be delivered, and the Shanghai, so many generations before and after are going to be devotee because you're my dear devotee. And eventually, Hiranyakashipu, he gets reborn a couple of times and then goes back to God. But that was the boon that he offered him, two boons. Anyone else?
Is that also he said, how can I ever give up Narada Muni's service?
Yes, that's a famous verse. Mahabharata included that prayer in the, I think, Markine Bhagavatam Dhamma. Evam janamna patitam babavahi kupe kama bikama manayak papatam pasangad krit vat sat surarshina bhagavan grihitam soham katam dubisujeta vabhritti seva. So again he's taking the role of a conditioned soul. He says, my dear Lord, I'm just a person who's fallen down in amongst all these demons. But they tam babahi kupe, just like a well full of snakes. And following my associates, I'm also developing all these material desires. Kama vikama nayak papatan prasangat. Due to this prasanga, this word prasanga comes up again and again. Due to the intense, close association with my father and another demonic influence, I'm full of all these material desires. But I was that way. But you, or rather, you sent your dear devotee Narada Muni, Kritvatmasat Suraushina, Sura Rishi. That means the sage amongst the demigods. That's Narada Muni, and he imparted to me his own qualities. Kritvatmasat Suraushina, Bhagavan Grahitam. How could I ever give up the service of his lotus feet? That's a famous verse, and it's something that devotees really should embrace in terms of their spiritual master. He say to really. That's why the first words we say when we come to Mangalartik. You've heard of Mangalartik. I don't know if you've ever attended. Real early. That you chant Samsara Davananalilak. Huh? That's right. You hear this morning. I'm sorry, but it's good to meditate on the meaning of all its Sanskrit to learn it from the songbook. So the first word Samsara Davananalila Loka Tranaya. In Sanskrit you can string along all these words. A big compound word. So you go to the end. To understand, it's a tranaya. So the spiritual master is delivering us and anyone else who wants to accepts the mercy from this burning forest fire of samsara, of illusion and birth and death. Davanana lita loka. All the people are suffering, but he's delivering them. How? By showering down like these big clouds, showering down a mercy in the form of the holy name, prasadam, the association, the books. That's the cloud of mercy. If we take advantage of it, we get delivered, So that's the first installment, really, is where there's a banking of the fire, of the suffering in this material world. You can feel the soothing nectar of the holy name, So that's was that a question? Oh, evam janam napatitam. Yeah. So Prahlad is taking that role, and we can all take advantage of that mood. Of appreciating that. So the first mood, the first emotion really is gratitude, for the gifts of the spiritual master. Okay, it's late. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.